All right, we are live. Oh my goodness, I feel like it's been forever. Forgive me. I haven't been live in so long. But that's all right. That is okay because we're doing it today. And actually, the reason I wanted to go live was because there were a few reasons, but the big one is last year around the same time in June. I got a phone call from a reporter at the New York Times, and they asked me to help weigh in on an article about like what to do in the middle of the year to do like a money check-in or like a financial review or checkup. And so the really cool thing is that my book came out literally around that time, like May 30th of 2023, so like in the middle of the year. And she not only quoted me in the article, but then featured my book, which was amazing. So around this time of the year, I'm thinking about that again. And I'm like, you know what? That is so important. Like in the middle of the year to actually go through your money situation and just like check up on a few things. And so I want to talk about what that looks like, why it's important. After this live is published, I'll post on the bottom the link to that New York Times article in case you are curious to read it. Not only did they again take my quote, but mention my book too, which is amazing. And so I'll share that. But basically, what I said was that it's really important to do this because, first of all, the why. If you think about all the spending that happens throughout the year, the things that are the most expensive, they don't happen until the second half of the year, which is after June 1st. So once June comes, like it's that time. Like you have to really start planning because next thing you know, summer planning, like you want to take a trip over the summer. Oh, back to school comes. Now all of a sudden you got back to school expenses. Oh, the holidays, not only Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then the winter holidays, but it's just so much in terms of like food and in terms of the trips and travel. And there's a lot. So instead of waiting like every single year till for the holidays to come, to November to come, to Halloween to come, and then worrying about, oh, I gotta pay for this, I gotta pay for that, how am I gonna buy this or that? June is the perfect time to do that planning. So there's a lot of stuff, spending heavy stuff at the end of the year. This is the time to do it. So the way that I like to do it is really just go through the monthly budget. At the end of the day, it starts with that B, right? The budget. Like, am I setting aside enough money, not just to spend on what I need, but also to like think ahead about the next couple months, right? So that might mean setting up a fund, which for a lot of people who don't really know the term, there's a term called sinking funds, which is especially for a little pot of money for a special purpose where you put little by little for the next few months or the next few weeks until when that time comes, the money's all there and you have enough. So this is like back in the day, there used to be layaway. I'm probably aging myself. I don't know who remembers layaway, but when back in the day when you needed to buy something but you didn't have the money, you could put it on layaway and then little by little you would go every week and make a payment, make a payment, make a payment until the end of your plan. All of a sudden you paid the whole amount and you could take your thing home. Maybe it was a dress or a pair of shoes or a coat, right? Now that doesn't really exist anymore because let's be real, you could just use your credit card or buy now, pay later or whatever. There's so many credit like types of payments available through credit that you don't really have to come up with the money yourself anymore, right? Which is a little dangerous, very convenient, but also very dangerous. But sinking funds are kind of going back to that old school mentality to say, look, you need a certain amount instead of just borrowing it or going into debt. Just add every week a certain amount or every month a certain amount, and then by the time you need to spend that money, it'll all be there and you can avoid borrowing, you could avoid debt. So if you like this idea, sinking funds might be for you. And if you never heard that term, just literally go on Google and search it up. Sinking funds, right? It's like so easy to find like different ways to do it. And so that's the first thing I would say. I would definitely recommend sinking funds. You got to start putting money away for things like back to school spending, especially if you got kids. I don't have kids, so I don't usually have to worry too much about back to school, but I do definitely have to worry about the holidays because I have a big family. I have 8 brothers and sisters, plus my mom and dad. I got 10 nieces and nephews. Is a lot. So I'm always trying to think about holiday gifts or like travel, especially airfare. Like if my family's going to do the holidays in New York and I live in Miami. So there's a lot of that, right? So definitely go through the budget and set aside how much am I going to need to put aside so that I can add to my sinking funds every week or every month. And so that by the time I need that money, it's there. That takes planning. That means you have to sit down, go through your current spending and see, okay, where can I squeeze out the money that I need and how long is it going to take me to save up that amount? Now, the second part of this process for me is probably even a little more important than the budgeting. Maybe not more important, but equally as important. And this is, where are you putting this money? Are you going to just throw it into a regular savings account and let it sit there for the next 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 months? Me personally, I mean, I'm of the mindset that you should try to get as much growth on that money as possible, especially right now, June 2024. Like, there is a really good situation right now for savings because you have really high inflation, really high interest rates, which means even though high inflation is annoying, it means that you get a lot of money back when you save money. But you have to be saving it in the right place. Okay, you have to be saving in the right place. Now, one of the things that I recently learned, and it confuses me, it boggles the mind, I do not understand it, is how most Americans still do not have a high yield savings account. Like, what y'all doing out there? What are you doing? If you do not have a savings account that gives you a high yield right now, first of all, you're slacking. You're sleep. I need you to wake up and I need you to change where you're saving money because it only takes like 15 to 20 minutes of your time, okay? It's not that hard. It's very quick. And not only that, but the money that you're saving for the holidays, for back to school, for whatever it is that's coming up, you'll be getting way more interest, which is free money that you're getting paid. They literally put free money in your bank account for you to keep, okay? Now, if you have a regular savings account, let's say at a major bank, your interest rate is probably less than 0.05%. Okay, 0.05. That's 5 cents. Okay, that means so if every $100 that you put in there, you're gonna get 5 pennies back free. So it's actually just say if I have $100 and I put it in my checking in my savings account and it's a high yield savings account, how can I stay away from that 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, or 5 cents and get closer to full dollars like $4, $5, maybe $5.50? That's free. Again, free money. That means you need to be looking for whole numbers: 5.5%, 4.35%, 4.7%. You need whole numbers. Okay. So if your savings account right now has a 0 point something something, you're at a whack, regular, degular savings account that is trash. Okay. So I'm going to need you to first and foremost, while you're doing your financial review, do a little bit of research and find out which are the high yield savings accounts right now that are giving you 5% or more, or close to 5% as possible. Maybe they're not giving you 5% straight up, but if it's very close, then you're good. Okay. So this article here from CNBC, I was honestly shocked that it said 82% of Americans do not have a high yield savings account. 82%. Like, this is way too much. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Right here, it literally says, why does this even matter? Because it means that a lot of y'all out there are losing out on free money. Some high yield savings accounts currently offer interest rates higher than 5%, which is 10 times more than the national average. I'm going to tell you, it's not just some. There's a lot, okay? There are a lot of high yield savings accounts out there, but it's going to take a little bit of research. So if you already have a high yield savings account and you know you're getting that 4 or 5%, let us know in the chat where you are putting your money. Which high yield savings account do you have? Share that knowledge. For me, I posted on a bunch of times of I have 2 different high yield savings accounts, one for my family and one for myself. It's amazing. My family account is at Ally. My personal savings, I actually recently moved to Wealthfront because they have a promotion for 5.5%. So everybody I refer, instead of just getting 5%, it bumps you up to 5.5 when you refer. So of course I referred as many people, telling everybody, listen, you could get 5.5% right now. This is really great. And the other thing too is that for me, like, I put 6 to 9 months of my spending each month. I multiply by 6 or 9, and I put that in a high yield savings account for my emergency savings fund, right? So think about that. Getting 0.01 or 0.05% on your 6 or 9 months of cash savings is nothing. But if you're getting 5%, for me right now, I have over $30,000 in my emergency savings fund. So I literally will wake up one day and see a notification that I just got $312, or I just got $285, just free money that I got this month from interest payments, because my interest rate is 5.5% and I have 6 months of savings. This is what I'm talking about. Literally free, $200-$300 for free every single month. Now, obviously, everybody out there doesn't have 6, 9, 7, 8, 9 months of savings, but that's the goal. The goal is for you to be able to build up to the point where you can sleep at night knowing that you have 6 months, 7 months of emergency savings. And if and when you do, you better be getting that 5%. You better, as much high interest as you can get, then you should be getting it. Now, again, the place to go is high yield savings accounts. Very few big major banks have those. There's very few. If you want a high yield savings account, most likely is going to be through an online bank. Most likely, right? Just because of the fact that they can afford to do this. Like, they don't have to pay for rent for physical buildings. They don't have to pay the bank tellers that are standing there when you walk into the bank. Hi, good morning. How are you? How can I help you today? Welcome to the bank. They don't have to pay those people. And they also don't have a lot of other what they call overhead costs, which goes into expenses that they have to spend money on as a bank, right? As an institution. If they can cut all those costs and not spend all that money that way, they could repurpose that money and actually give it back to you and me, the customers, through higher interest. Okay, so this is the beauty of a high yield savings account. Most of the time, it's going to be online banks. Make sure it's FDIC insured. Hello, that's important because you want to know your money is protected. If anything happens to that bank, you're good with your money because the government will protect it. But most, I would say 99% of the banks I see online are FDIC insured. It's hard to go out there and find a bank that's not FDIC insured. So it's really not a huge concern. Just double check that it is, and then you should be good. But look for a high yield. That is the most important thing, high yield savings account. I do not know why so many Americans do not have one of these yet. Literally the other day, I was on the phone with somebody from NPR, and she works at NPR. Okay, so you would think, okay, this person knows the news, especially financial news, kind of knows what's up. She probably has a high yield savings account, and she told me she just recently, like a few months ago, got a high yield savings account. And I asked her why, like, why did it take you so long? You're a grown woman and you work at NPR. And she said, well, it's because of the fear. She just didn't want to change banks. She knew her bank. She'd been with that bank for so long. She always had her savings account there. Her mama has a savings account there. Her dad has a savings account there. It's like this comfort and safety of knowing where your money is. And then changing that, it's just a little, a little scary, I guess. So I told her it should not be scary. It should be exciting. You should be hyped. Like, you should be like, woo, I'm changing my account and I'm getting more interest. I'm getting higher interest, right? So it's a little bit of reframing, but also just educating yourself. Know that most of these banks nowadays, as long as they're FDIC insured, you are good. And especially the ones that offer high yield savings accounts, those are the ones where you want to be going to do your business and to put your savings account. All right. So we need to get off these regular savings accounts. Thank you, Chuck D, on YouTube for putting all of the different recommendations on there. Also, CDs. Yep. You know what? CDs have really high interest rates right now. That's a good point, Chuck. But what I would say to CDs, though, is that you have to know that that money you can't touch. Like, you really cannot touch it. So if something came up and you needed to touch your emergency savings with a CD, it's locked. It might be locked for a year or for 18 months or for 6 months, but you choose how much you want to lock it for versus a high yield savings account. It's not locked and you get the same interest rate. So that's the only downside about a CD. But on the other side, if you know you're not going to touch the money for like a good 12 months, 18 months, you know you're not going to touch it because you have emergency cash somewhere else too. Okay, well, in that case, you might want to lock the interest rate because interest rates are so high right now that probably in the next year, they're going to go down. So with the high yield savings account, what happens when interest rates go down? The high yield savings account interest rate that you get is also going to start going down. That's when you start getting an email from your bank like, starting next week or starting next month, we're going to start lowering the interest rate by 0.25 less. So if you're at 5.5, oh, you're going to now get 5.25. If you were at 5.25, oh, now you're only going to get 5%. So as interest rates drop, you also will see that the bank is going to update their interest rate and it's going to be a little bit lower, right? So if you locked your money in the CD though, you got that rate locked in. So even if interest rates start going down to 4% or 3% or whatever, your interest rate is locked in until the term of that CD is up. So if you got 18 months, they could change interest rates however many times they want in the next 18 months, but yours is locked. So that could be a bonus. That could be a positive thing depending on what you need. So just, I'm just saying, do your homework and know, because at the end of the day, if you need the money and you can't because you locked it up trying to guarantee yourself that high interest rate, you're going to end up having to borrow or go into debt because you can't access your own money, or you're going to take out the money and pay a penalty. So just make sure, you know the pros and cons of each of these accounts. Okay, so we talked about the first part, which is to make sure that you go through your spending and make sure you look if you need like a a specific fund, like sinking fund for something for the future, which just takes, you got to sit down and do some planning and think about what's coming up in the next couple months. And then we talked about the emergency fund, super important. The next three pieces that I would say are part of at least my mid-year review is, look at any debt that you have. Thank goodness I paid off a lot of my debt, but back in the day I had a lot of credit cards. And so just making sure that you're paying off your debt in a way that is as smart as you can pay it off. Like if you're doing the avalanche method or the snowball method, and maybe one of them isn't working or is not motivating you, maybe it's time to switch. Maybe it's time to like redo your payoff plan and like try something new in the middle of the year to switch things up and then recommit to paying off your debt, right? So I would say the middle of the year is the perfect time to do that. You got 6 months left to go in the year. This is a good time to like, A/B testing, right? You tried something the first 6 months, maybe it's time to try something else the second 6 months, right? So that would be debt. And then the last two I would say is investing or slash insurance. Make sure you're looking at the plan, because one of the biggest mistakes I know a lot of people make, they'll sign up for the investment plan at their job, like let's say a 401k or a 403b, and they never look at it again. They just signed up. They chose the interest, however much percentage of their paycheck is going to go in there every month, and they selected, something in the plan, and then boom, they just set it on autopilot and never look at it. Okay, I'm not saying that you need to look at it every single day or every week, not even every month, but you definitely want to look at it at least once a year. So if you haven't looked at it yet, here we go. Middle of the year, you got 6 months in, 6 months to go. This is the perfect time to log in and look. Do you know what's up? Do you know what these things mean? Do you know if you own index funds inside of your 403b or your 401k? Or do you know if those are actively managed mutual funds? Or maybe you have target date funds, which are a special type of mutual fund that has a lot of different mutual funds inside of a mutual fund. But you need to know, what do you own? And then also, what is the expense ratio for each of the funds that you have? Do you even know what they are? If not, you should know. Just like you should know the interest rate on your savings account. You got to know. Now, with your savings account, you want the highest yield possible, but with your expense ratios on your investment accounts, you actually want your expense ratios in your funds to be really low, because that's going to get subtracted from all of the money that you make investing. So you want to actually keep the money that you make investing. You don't want them to take a bunch away. So you want them to take a little bit and you keep the rest. So you want to look and make sure, do I have low expense ratios? If you see really high numbers like 2%, 1%, for expense ratios, those are high numbers. So maybe you might want to go back and talk to somebody who could help with your plan, or just do some research yourself and see, is there something a little cheaper for me in here? Because those high fees will eat away at your returns. All right. So that's investing. Just check up. Like if you have a Roth IRA, have you been making contributions? Are you on track to maxing it out? If not, maybe you have a traditional IRA. Are you on track with that? Knowing exactly what you own inside of these accounts, right? If you have a kid, do you have a 529 plan set up for them? If not, maybe it's time to open that up, right? Like you can do all of that when you sit down and just go through each of the steps. So first, obviously looking at your spending, seeing if you need sinking funds. Second, emergency savings. Make sure it's in a high yield savings account, HYSA, HISA, okay? High yield savings account. The third is to go through a debt plan. And if you have been on track with your debt plan, great. But if not, this is a good time to revamp it, try something new. And then fourth is investments, also slash insurance, right? Because a lot of times you might not have the right insurance, or maybe the insurance that you have is like too expensive for you, or it's just not working. This is a good time to look at it and see if it makes sense to stay with the insurance that you have or not. So literally the other day, I had one of my nieces text me and ask me about insurance. Like, oh, should I get this type of insurance or that type of insurance? And I was like, you got to understand, why are you getting insurance? What is the purpose of insurance, right? And once we talked about that, she realized she's so young, under 30 years old. There's no reason why you should be paying $500, $600, $700 a month for insurance. That's wild. Like, you should not be paying that much. And then I explained to her, for example, my life insurance policy is a term life policy for 30 years. I only pay $77 a month for my 30-year term life insurance policy. And the death benefit is $1.75 million. So you can get a pretty hefty death benefit and still have a low monthly payment each month. It's just a matter of shopping around and comparing and getting the best life insurance plan that you can. I know people who have paid way more every month, and then when they look at the death benefit that they have, it's only like $300,000. I'm like, why are you paying $400 a month for life insurance, and then your death benefit is only $300,000? It does not make sense. The math ain't mathing. So at the end of the day, this mid-year financial review is a great time to go through and just make sure, look at these numbers. Are they adding up? Right? And then the last thing I would say is taxes. The taxes part of your financial review is very important because it ties back to like the investments a little bit. If you're looking at your tax like planning for halfway through the year and you're like do a quick assessment of like, okay, am I going to owe taxes or am I going to get a refund back? Right? If you know that you're doing a quick assessment to see that you're overpaying and you're going to get an income tax refund, okay, that's a great thing, but you also need to start planning for that refund. Now, if you owe taxes, that's not always a bad thing. That's good. That means that you're not giving the government an interest free loan. Hello, let's celebrate that. And then, second of all, it means that you have the opportunity to plan now so that you can lower your tax burden later. So, for me, that looks like maxing out my retirement plan. Now, I'm not saying everybody got to do this, but for me, I can afford to max out my 401k. So if you're a high income earner, that might be something that you want to check out. Like, oh, if I max out my 401k or my 403b, then that means that my taxable income is going to drop really, really low. They're going to subtract how much you put into the plan. So if you're putting in $23,000 into your retirement plan every year, then it's going to subtract from your taxable income. $23,000 less is what you'll owe when tax time comes, or what you'll be taxed on, $23,000 less. So there's no way for you to be able to plan for the taxes that you owe once it's tax season, like January, February of 2025. No, you need to do it now because the taxes are going to be assessed based on January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. So that's the thing, is like everything that happens during those 365 days, once those days pass, you can't change what happened during those days. But right now you're halfway through. So this is the perfect time to go through and be like, all right, okay, I see what's going on here. I could put somebody in a traditional IRA real quick, stuff this money over there for my future self and lower my current taxable income. Okay, tax strategizing. But you need to know that you have to do that now. You can't wait till December, January, February. You got to do that now. So I definitely recommend, if you want to lower your taxes, to take a look at retirement accounts like the traditional IRA. You could do that yourself. The 401k, if you have one at your job, or 403b, if you have one at your job. All of these will lower, or SEP IRA, these will lower your taxable burden, which is dope, amazing. I would do it if I were you. Okay, so that was the last one that I would say for the mid-year review. Again, I'm going to share the article to the New York Times below, and I'm so glad that they featured my book because about a year ago now, I published my book, which has been amazing. It feels like a year was like a long time, but also like a short time. It's such a weird thing. But I wanted to do something special to celebrate. So what I decided to do was to donate 1,000 books. Now, obviously, donating 1,000 books means that I have to pay for them myself. So I would love to community source and community crowdfund this money to pay for 1,000 copies of my book to go into public schools. That would be just like, for me, a sweet way to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of my book being published, but also to do something that's going to give back and pay it forward. So I created this page, which is givebutter.com/mind your money. And it will allow you to donate. You can see I just created the page today, so I have $0 so far, but you can be the first to donate. So one book at cost is $9, which can obviously be one book for one student. But if you want to give a full classroom, like all the students in the class, a set of books, that's $200. Now I'm trying to give 1,000 books, 1,000 students, right? So I'm trying to get $10,000 raised. And obviously this is going to so many different positive benefits. It's going to have so many different positive impacts, right? One, there's going to be books in public schools, and we all know we need more good books in public schools. Two, the author is diverse, okay? It's me. I feel like when I was in school, a lot of the books that I was reading was written by white authors, male authors. And especially for public schools, we have so much diversity in the classrooms and in the seats. We should have that same diversity in the authors that are writing the books that students are reading. So I really love the idea of showing them that as a Latina, I'm a published author and I'm a voice that is a trusted source of information in the financial literacy space, and that I'm out here like doing a lot of impactful work, right? Not only speaking and running my own business and publishing a book and posting content on social media, but also getting these laws changed to require financial literacy for high school graduation. Right? When I started doing this work in 2018, there were only 5 states that required financial literacy for high school graduation. In 2024, there's 25 states. So we're talking about quintupling, 5xing the number of states that now require students to take a full semester class in just personal financial literacy, nothing else, just a standalone class in order to graduate high school. That's huge. That's a game changer. So these books could be a huge part of that. It'll go right into the hands of these students. And yeah, basically, if you want to support, you can just go to the page, givebutter.com/mind your money. And you'll see my little story here, that my wake up call when I got my, when I looked at my credit card, that it was $20,000 and I was 21 years old. I didn't know what to do, but I started reading books about money and I started watching videos about money. And that was really, really huge for me. So I'm trying to pay it forward, and I want to gift 1,000 teens with the exact skills that help me get my money right. So if you give a donation, it can really help with supporting these students and giving them these books. So you could just hit the donate button and go through the steps to do a donation. And also, if you don't want to do it on the computer, you can just do that on your phone too. You can text the word money book with no spaces, all one word, money book, to 53555. And if you send that text, they'll just send you the link straight to your phone, and you can donate that way. So you got a couple options for how you want to support, if you choose to support and if you can afford to. Obviously, I know some people might not be in a position, but if you can, it is an incredible project that I'm so happy to be doing. I'm just going to keep going live and promoting it until we hit the $10,000 goal, because that's the only way that, we're out here to make change. I sometimes feel like I'm doing too much, like I'm bothering, like, oh, I already promoted it. But let me tell you something, Nike, okay, Jordan, okay, Old Navy, okay, Sephora, they don't care about annoying me when they promote to me every single hour of every day of every week of every month of every year with their ads in my inbox, ads on my social media, text messages to my phone. So you know what? It's time for us to do the same thing. We're out here to promote for a good cause, okay, to make good change, positive impact in students' lives. And so I'm not gonna be ashamed. We're gonna be going live every day, promoting the book drive and the fundraiser. All right, y'all. So that is what I got. If you had any other questions for me about mid-year financial review, just drop them in the bottom of the video. I will definitely come back and try and answer them. I got a couple live, but if you watch this after it was live, I'll go back in and answer them. And yeah, you can always DM me if you want more information about the book drive, or if you have a recommendation for a future video. As I mentioned, it's givebutter.com/mind your money, or you can text moneybook to 53555. Thanks, y'all. Till next time. Peace.